And welcome back to The Gist. I'm joined by Monét Souza from A Message of Hope Ministry. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I know you're a young woman, young Catholic woman on fire with the faith. You have your own YouTube channel. Tell me a little bit about your ministry.
Definitely. So as a little girl, I loved public speaking. You know, my first opportunity of speaking in front of a crowd was when I was a second grader for my first Holy Communion, and just something about having a microphone in front of me just gave me this like deep feeling of passion. And so from that moment forward, I just kept seeking that out. Eventually, it came to a point where I'm like, oh, I can actually make a career out of this after seeing Jason Everett come to our high school. I was a sophomore, and I was like, wow, that's something I would really love to do. I want to really just stir people's hearts of the love that God has for them, the way that Jason did that day. And he did it just so profoundly and beautifully, where I was like, you know what? Any opportunity I get, I want to be able to do that. So the Lord just kept opening doors. In April 2020, A Message of Hope was founded. And so it's a social media.
And man, was that needed in April of 2020.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And, you know, with A Message of Hope, for that year, people just kept talking about hope and, you know, where do we turn to? What do we do? And it was definitely the Lord orchestrating everything so beautifully. But it is social media based, not my preference, but that's, you know, with the times of not being in person right off the bat. So now, thank God, the public speaking opportunities have been coming up. I've been going to high schools, I've been going to parishes, I've been going to, you know, pro-life groups, whatever it may be, to speak and to keep spreading this message of hope, not just on social media, but also in person.
Although social media, especially for your target audience, I know that your YouTube channel, I think you probably interview some teenagers as well as other guests. And of course, you're a young Catholic woman in your 20s. They need to hear from somebody younger. I mean, I'm okay, but I think my kids would rather hear from somebody like you.
Sure, and you know, I get an array of people, whether they're high schoolers, recent graduates, college students, young adults, priests, religious, whatever it is, because you know, this message of hope resonates with all ages, but I agree with you, it is something with that age. If they see someone else their age in high school or in college, it becomes a bit more real for them of, oh, there's another person my age who's actually living out the faith, then I can as well.
Which is so hard in your 20s. And I think it's so important to build up that young adult ministry all across the country, you know, within the Catholic Church. Sure. I have to mention, you went to Steubenville in Ohio, which kind of explains some of your, you know, your zeal and zest, you know, for our Lord, and you have a heart for our Lord. I know you also have a passion for helping the homeless as well. So you are truly living the faith. Tell me about Christ in the City.
So Christ in the City is a nonprofit organization based out of Denver, Colorado, and they've been around for about 10 years now, but that's where their home stopping grounds are. And thank God I had the opportunity 4 years ago to be a missionary for a week. And then again, about a year ago now, I was doing a month of service there. And that's when I got connected with a good friend of mine, Colleen. She lives in New Hampshire, I live in Massachusetts. And once we got home that summer, we were like, there's just no real sense of encounter ministry. So, you know, we have the soup kitchens, we have the donation drives where you can give something to these men and women, which is great. But when you can give of your time and give of your, you know, just having a conversation, that's what true encounter is, sitting with the person, meeting them where they're at. And so Christ in the City isn't official here in Boston yet, but they have so graciously allowed us to follow a lot of their encounter model. They've given us resources. So for a little over a year now, my friend Colleen and I have been leading once a month encounter ministry days out in the streets of Boston. And
is it just the two of you? Do you bring other people with you?
So first it started with just a group of 6, started super small, and now we're up through 30 people who join us every month. The Cathedral of the Holy Cross has allowed us to be in their church, being able to, you know, just give training, have lunch, have fellowship, and then we go out and we do different street routes, about 5 to 6 street routes on a given Saturday.
And when you talk about encounter, you're talking about, you know, really listening to that person. I mean, do you say, hey, by the way, I love Jesus. Have you ever heard of him? Like, I mean, do you have those faith conversations? I know that would not convert anyone. I know that you would not take me with you. But what do you say to people?
Sure. So we always say, you know, we know we're Catholic, but if you think of someone that you just started working with, you're not going to sit next to them in the break room and be like, hey, I'm Catholic. You know, that's not usually what you start.
Right. That would be awkward, right?
That's
I
not...
might do it, but it would be really weird. But go ahead.
So that's normally not how you start. You know, maybe at a place here at Catholic TV, everyone's pretty much on the same page that there's Catholics here. You can maybe do it there. But when we start, we usually start with a name, because these men and women haven't heard their names in weeks and months and years. They go off of normally a street name, so a nickname, but they haven't heard their birth name in a given amount of time, and then that's where you strike the heart. So we usually start with, hey, can we sit with you for a bit? My name's Monét, what's your name? And then if Jesus comes up, great, and if he doesn't, that's okay too, because where we go back every month, there's a consistency where, you know, this one gentleman, Anthony, we've been seeing him for a year, and the faith didn't come up until maybe 4 months of getting to know him. But now we're on that same page of, oh, you love Jesus, I love Jesus. So it's just like building any other relationship or friendship like you would on a day-to-day basis.
Where did you get this heart? I know I had mentioned you went to Steubenville, and I know that your family obviously had a huge influence on it, but to dedicate your whole life to it, you know, you could have been a nurse, and nurses are wonderful, and that's a ministry and vocation. You could have been a teacher, but you're just out talking about Jesus to whoever you can. Why?
It's just, it goes back to, you know, second grade me. It's this like stirring within me of this excitement, of this joy. I love variety. I don't like when things are cut and dry, and it's just, you know, I want to be like one of the apostles where you're just constantly moving with the Lord. You don't really, yes, you have home base of, you know, being in Canton or home base of being in the Catholic Church, but to go out and have a variety of things that you can do for the Catholic faith just gives me a rush. So I really enjoy it.
Are there any favorite episodes that you've had on Message of Hope on the YouTube side?
So I was thinking about this, you know, there's always ones that I oftentimes go back to and look at, and it's, I would say, Who's Who. It was one of my earlier episodes, and it's just talking about knowing the promptings of the Lord and the promptings of the devil and of evil. Like being able to distinguish that, because especially in today's world, the truth has been, you know, put in a gray area.
Watered down.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So it helps you just draw that line in the sand. And then the all-time favorite for my for my followers and listeners is Why Delete a Catholic Match. That seems to be the most popular right now on the channel. So it's every episode offers something different, but the bottom line is still always the same, that you're loved by God and we have a faith that we should be proud of.
And I think that the homeless ministry part, it also obviously ties into beautifully with the pro-life ministry that, you know, God knows your name. God knew your name before you were formed in the womb. I think it says that in Jeremiah. Any Bible scholars out there, I think it's chapter 1, right? Verse 5, perhaps, look it up. I think somebody said it there, but I mean, I knew you. And I think that name is just such a beautiful way of getting to know people and getting them to know that they're loved by God.
Exactly. I agree with you. And, you know, then that's the beauty, like the more people we meet, those names that we're gathering, we can keep bringing them to prayer. Like whether it's men and women experiencing homelessness, or, you know, yourself, like I can now add you to my list of people to continue to pray for. But and then that's what makes it more of a community of believers, and we become less divided, less separated, and we become closer, unified, like we were meant to be from the beginning.
Awesome. Well, your show on YouTube is called A Message of Hope.
Yes.
But you give me great hope as a mom, you know, that you are the future generation. Actually, you're the now. You're the here and now, and I appreciate all you're doing for our Lord. God bless you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.